type of social enterprise, cooperative. Cooperative is an association of people united to meet common economic and social needs through jointly owned enterprises. Cooperatives are organized by and for their members, who come together to provide a shared service from which they all benefit. Cooperatives are organizations owned, controlled, and run for the benefit of their members. One dictionary defines a cooperative as a jointly owned enterprise engaging in the production or distribution of goods or the supplying of services, operated by its members for their mutual benefit, typically organized by consumers or farmers. We will present one more definition. A cooperative is an autonomous association of persons united voluntarily to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. 2 videos will present what a cooperative is and how cooperatives differ.
Ownership matters. It gives people a say in the things they care about. Being an owner in a business, for example, gives people motivation and a stake in its success. But over the last 30 years, the number of people who have control over the businesses that shape our lives has become smaller, not larger. It's no surprise that when you ask them, people say they have no influence in their workplace, over businesses, and over the economy as a whole. Cooperatives, however, offer a solution. From the outside, they may look like any other business, but inside they are very different. They're owned and controlled together by the people closest to the business: employees, customers, residents, suppliers, not distant shareholders. They have an equal say in how the business is run, and they even decide what to do with the profits. And cooperatives work. There are nearly 7,000 independent co-ops in the UK. They're found in every sector, from high street retailers to farmer-controlled businesses, cooperative pubs and credit unions. Some of our most famous brands come from cooperatives, from champagne and parmesan to Lurpak butter and bird's eye peas. Even Barcelona Football Club is a co-op owned by its fans. Co-ops contribute £37 billion each year to the British economy and boost UK productivity, innovation and entrepreneurship. And they work for the 15 million members who together own the UK's co-ops. Cooperatives give people, in fact all of us, more control over the things that matter. What do you want to do together?
Cooperatives are a form of business that's literally owned by its customers. While the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ are full of publicly owned companies, ownership of co-ops is limited and unique.
A cooperative is a business that has 3 primary components. It's user-controlled, user-owned, and benefits the user. And so those 3 things in conjunction make it unique. You can say member-controlled, member-owned, member benefits. A co-op is a corporation, and we tend to contrast cooperatives with non-cooperative corporations. And the main difference that consumers would notice is in who owns it and how the control works. So I can buy an Apple computer and never invest in Apple, never buy stock in Apple. Similarly, I can invest in Apple stock but never buy any Apple products. So those who are buying inputs from the cooperative or selling grain to the co-op are investing in it through how profits are distributed, and they also have control. They have an ownership stake. They have a voting stake, and that's very different than the ways in which we interact with other corporations.
Because of cooperatives' member-controlled, member-owned, member benefit structure, their business goals differ from other types of companies. While other forms of business seek to maximize profits, co-ops can choose to forego profit maximization in favor of helping member owners be more profitable in their individual farm operations.
So the co-op isn't tied to profit maximization. In fact, in most cases, we assume that they are not profit maximizers. They're engaging with members in other ways to make sure that the member receives the most benefit.
When a co-op does earn a profit, at least some of that money is returned to member owners.
The idea is that the co-op was able to be profitable from the members, and any excess profitability should be returned to those members. So a co-op has the right to keep some to build a pot for future investments, for example.
When there are profits to share, the co-op pays customers based on their activity with the co-op that year. These profit payments to members are known as patronage.
So if there's a co-op of 10 members and everyone does equal amounts of business, then everyone shares in that distribution of profits equally. If you have one person who does 80% of the business, they're going to get 80% of whatever is allocated to the membership from the business. So it's very much proportional to use. It's intended to benefit the members who use it the most and provide benefits proportional to use. The board can decide when to pay that out to membership. It used to be that a board would use an age of patron program so that patronage would be paid out when the member reached a certain age, either 65 or 70 years old. Most co-ops have moved away from that to an age of equity program where they will pay that equity after the equity has reached a certain age. Let's say that's 10 years. So if a member did business with a cooperative in 2005 and as a result had $5,000 of patronage in their name at the co-op, that equity wouldn't be paid out to them until 10 years later in the year 2015. Just as if members are supposed to share in the profitability, they're also supposed to share in the economic loss. So if the co-op goes through a period of time where there are losses, that also impacts the membership because losses decrease equity, and that equity is in the members' names. So to the extent that co-ops are not profitable, at some point it does impact the members' equity in the co-op.
One of the core reasons co-ops exist is to help reduce the cost of doing business and to mitigate risk for member owners.
When we talk about economic theory, we talk about the costs of transacting, the costs of doing business, and there can be a lot of different costs. They are costs associated with risk, there are costs associated with organizing, there are costs associated with transportation, of course. But these transaction costs are not trivial. So imagine if 20 producers have to contract individually to sell their grain with a processor. There's a cost of doing that. There's a price discovery cost. How do we know what the market prices are? And each individual producer has to do that separately. Now imagine they do that together. They pool all their grain together and there's one transaction going on. There's one call to sell the grain. There's one call to figure out what the price is going to be. And you can ship more effectively when you're shipping a large amount of grain versus a small amount of grain. So these transaction costs and internalizing those within a company structure instead of having each individual producer pay a share of it reduces overall transaction costs. Risk is a really important transaction cost, and cooperatives, particularly grain and farm supply co-ops, do a good job at pooling producers' risk. So by pooling the risk and spreading it out over many people, it's a reduction of risk to everybody.
Like any business, co-ops can also borrow money. Unlike many other kinds of businesses, however, most co-ops cannot accept investments from the general public. In most cases, capital has to come from members or from retained profitability.
So the co-op can really only be capitalized from those who control it. What that essentially means is that members are required to participate economically in the business. And that is different than other firms. Apple Computer can go out and raise money from investors who might have no other interest in their business model. They're purely there for speculative reasons or as a return on their own capital. That's not the case with co-ops. Their only investors are those who use it.
Cooperatives are businesses owned and run by their members. Cooperatives offer a flexible model for new businesses. They can be set up by employees, consumers, local residents, and businesses, and already work well in everything from healthcare to housing, wind farms to web design. Cooperatives allow people to take control of their economic future and, because they are not owned by shareholders, the economic and social benefits of their activities stay in the communities where they are established. Profits generated are either reinvested in the enterprise or returned to the members. The cooperative model is flexible. It works in sectors across the economy and can be organized in a range of ways. It enables businesses large and small to thrive, gives the people closest to the business a stake in it, harnesses their ideas, and as a result, boosts productivity. Cooperatives are businesses owned and controlled by their members, who can be consumers, staff, suppliers, local residents, or a combination of these stakeholders. Members have an equal say in how the business is run. Members choose what to do with profits, whether distributing among members, reinvesting in the business, or giving to the community. As already said, members may be employees, customers, suppliers, or local residents, but this shared ownership is central to a cooperative's existence. Cooperative ownership normally falls into one of four categories. Worker-owned cooperatives, which are owned and run by their workers, for example, Suma Whole Foods. Consumer-owned cooperatives owned and run by their customers, such as the Cooperative Group. Enterprise-owned cooperatives owned and run by other businesses, such as the farmer cooperative Anglia Farmers. And mixed ownership cooperatives, which are owned by a mix of these different groups, such as Greenwich Leisure. Cooperatives may include businesses owned and managed by the people who use their services, a consumer cooperative, organizations managed by the people who work there, worker cooperatives, organizations managed by the people to whom they provide accommodation, housing cooperatives, hybrids such as worker cooperatives that are also consumer cooperatives or credit unions, multi-stakeholder cooperatives such as those that bring together civil society and local actors to deliver community needs, second and third tier cooperatives whose members are other cooperatives, platform cooperatives that establish an user-owned computing platform and uses a website, mobile app, or a protocol to facilitate the sale of goods and services, and non-profit community organizations. The consumers of the goods and or services the cooperative provides are often also the individuals who have provided the capital required to launch or purchase that enterprise. The major difference between consumers' cooperatives and other forms of business is that the purpose of a consumers' cooperative association is to provide quality goods and services at the lowest cost to the consumer owners rather than to sell goods and services at the highest price above cost that the consumer is willing to pay. In practice, consumers' cooperatives price goods and services at competitive market rates, where a for-profit enterprise will treat the difference between cost, including labor, etc., and selling price as financial gain for investors. The consumer-owned enterprise may retain this to accumulate capital in common ownership, distribute it to meet the consumer's social objectives, or refund this sum to the consumer owner as an overpayment. Cooperatives want to make a profit. They are businesses, not charities, after all. But it is members such as the employees, customers, or local residents who have an equal say in what the business does and a share in any profits generated. It is how a cooperative makes its profit and what it does with it that is important. Profits can be reinvested in the business to do more of the good things that it exists for. And the cooperative can choose to distribute profits to its members as it is their money in the first place. After all, they helped generate it. The most typical and influential examples are the Seikatsu Consumer Club Co-op is a Japanese organization formed in 1965 with headquarters in Tokyo. The organization is owned by the members, most of them women, and is concerned with food safety. It buys organic food and shuns genetically modified organisms, and produces its own milk and biodegradable soap. The Cooperative Group, one of the world's largest consumer cooperatives, owned by millions of members. The Cooperative Group, trading as the Co-op, is a British consumer cooperative with a diverse family of retail businesses including food retail and wholesale, electrical retail, financial services, insurance services, legal services, and funeral care. It is the largest consumer cooperative in the UK and owned by more than 4.5 million active members. Co-op Food, previously trading as the Cooperative Food, is a brand designed for the food retail business of the consumer cooperative movement in the United Kingdom. The brand is used by over 15 different cooperative societies which operate over 4,000 shops and does not represent one single food retail business. More in a video.
In 1844, the Rochdale pioneers created an idea that changed the world. The Cooperative. They believed in a different way of doing business, a business that would be owned by its members and work for the common good. They believed that when people work together, they were stronger, that principles are more valuable than profits. In World War I, the Co-op were the first to introduce rationing to make sure everyone got their fair share.
The Cooperative Society have baked biscuits and made shoes ever since 1873, milling flour since 1891, producing cooperatively to consume cooperatively.
It was the start of a national movement that people joined with pride, a movement that never stopped trying to change the way things were done, a movement that was destined always to be different.
The customers own the co-op, therefore it is the customers who get the benefits of cooperative trading.
The dividend became a part of the nation's language and the household budget.
I just shop regularly at the co-op and get my dividend. You mean that pays for your new coat? It pays to shop at the co-op. Remember the dividend.
Yes, the co-op is not only a way of buying and selling, it's a way of life.
Shortcut shopping news. It's the first store in Britain to cut the housewife's shopping hours in half with a self-service food department.
The cooperative movement is worldwide. It has taken many different forms from country to country.
It's spread out across the whole United States. This co-op grocery idea. It's people's business.
And the Co-op continued to challenge, to change, to take a stand on what mattered most to our members and the communities we serve. We were the first to introduce degradable plastic bags. We were the first to ban more than 20 common pesticides from our fresh produce. The first to ban the sale of alcohol pops. The first to outlaw animal testing from the making of our household products and stop the use of potentially hazardous chemicals. And we led the way in fair trade. We were the first to sell fair trade bananas, the first to have our own fair trade brand. Our chocolate, our tea, our coffee and our sugar is all fair trade. We are proud to be doing things differently. Proud to be an organisation that works for its members, and proud that we are inspired by the principles of those Rochdale pioneers.
Anglia Farmers, a nationwide agricultural buying group that delivers value to its members. Its key services are crop protection, fertilizer and seed, livestock, fuel, telecoms, and energy. Summa is supplying natural, responsibly sourced products since 1977. It is UK's biggest workers' cooperative and Europe's largest single-pay employer. They are 100% vegetarian, from their sweets to their toothbrushes. That means no meat, no fish, and no animal-derived nasties such as gelatin or rennet. They believe that vegetarian food is healthy for bodies and is more environmentally sustainable. They also care about animal welfare and are against animal suffering. owned and managed by the workforce, they are proud to offer equal pay and an equal say in the business for all members. As a case study of Cooperative, we present Seikatsu Club.
Take you to Japan for just a moment to the year 1965. A small group of women talking about the security and quality of their food supply. They're worried about farmland being lost, farmers having a hard time earning a living, the use of more and more pesticides, the trend towards more and more imports. In short, they were worried about the quality and safety of their food supply. They hatched a simple plan and acted on it. The first step was for their small group to approach the local farmer with a simple question. Would you provide us with fresh food that is chemical-free in return for a just price? His response was straightforward. This is a good idea, but there is one condition. You must agree to buy all my products. Thus was born a partnership. Some say this is the origin of the community-supported agriculture movement, leaders of which are here in this room. The Japanese word for partnership is kaikai. The colloquial meaning is food with a farmer's face on it. Thus began a project to collectively purchase food as a means to achieve social, economic, and ecological values. Today, there are thousands of these groups made up of 5 to 15 or so people. They're called Hans, and from the beginning they define their vocation as being living instruments for social, economic, and ecological well-being. The Hans, eventually their work grew to a point where a legal structure was needed to better coordinate and extend the model. The first Seikatsu Consumer Cooperative was formed. There are now 32 with a total of 350,000 members, and in turn these have federated nationally in the Seikatsu Union Club. Today, the food sector in this system is worth $1.1 billion in sales. Even more impressive is the fact there is $1 billion in equity. Much of it due to each member paying $11 a month into an account until they contributed $3,500. Amazing, 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 right? That's finance solidarity at work. Now, why did they do this? Listen carefully. One is clear, financial stability. Second, as living instruments, active in building a healthy and secure food system, they see themselves as co-producers and co-investors of the food system that they feel needs to be created. And third, as citizens, they want to preserve and defend their democratic rights and their autonomy. Imagine, there's a certain level of consciousness there that is very inspiring. Now, this extends itself into other parts of the system. And I want to give you just a brief example, just so you can see the impact, because this is the way we're going to have to think, I think, much more systematically about how we build our values and concretely express them. In a Japanese superbox store, as many as 300,000 products to select from. An average Japanese food cost is 9,000. In Seikatsu, it's 1,600, and they can be bought, right? Our basic staples that families need to sustain themselves. So think about why they might do this. Think of the cost of securing and maintaining a large inventory. Think about the reduction of waste, food, waste plastics, waste energy, shipping products, many of whom and which will go to waste. Think about the impact of one simple rule they have, that you can only use 8 bottles if you're going to be a processor. That rule saves 2,000 tons of carbon a year. If that were a rule in every part of Japan, that would save 600,000 tons of carbon a year. This is concrete. This is real. This is very practical. And it is very, very much a function of these people seeing themselves as co-investors, co-producers of the world they want to live in. In Quebec, they would call this, I think, Nancy, a values-added supply chain model. I could tell you a lot more. They've gone into green energy. They've gone into social care. They have, in fact, got 17,000 workers who are owners in collectives, 600 collectives. They have done a lot. And it's little wonder that they got the Right Livelihood Award in 1989, and this is the words that were said, and they're words that are important for us to think about, because this solidarity economy is not just about us anymore. It is about us in relation to creation. We can no longer see ourselves as the center of everything. This is what they said. We recognize the success of psychiatry, especially the thousands of women who gave so much leadership for creating an alternative economic activity to the priority industrial society gives to efficiency, and for integrating human and environmental health into the heart of the production of essential materials for human beings. Psychiatry means living people. It is an apt name, indeed. It's a system that's decentralized, yet it's connected and federated. This is what we need in terms of strengthening our workers. It's a system that sets ecological standards that consumers and producers together work to ensure are respected. It's a system that is founded on the fundamental values of fair price and fair trade. It's a system that creates and reinforces our interconnectedness as human beings and our ultimate dependence on nature. Saikatsu, living people. This is the solidarity economy at work.
The Seikatsu Club Consumer Cooperative Union is a Japanese federation of consumer cooperatives headquartered in Tokyo. The cooperative was formed in 1965 and has 340,000 members, most of whom are women. Seikatsu Cooperative is divided into groups of households who order food collectively. It offers only 3,000 products and mostly staple food. As the cooperative is concerned with food safety, it buys organic food and shuns genetically modified organisms. Seikatsu Cooperative also produces its own milk and biodegradable soap. In 1979, the cooperative started running candidates for political office and now has over 100 members who serve as local councillors. There are about 500 consumers cooperatives in Japan. The Seikatsu Club Consumers Cooperative Union consists of an association of 32 consumer cooperatives active in 21 administrative divisions of Japan. The Seikatsu Cooperative carries out the development, purchasing, distribution, and inspection of consumer materials, food, general daily goods, clothes, publications, and publishes PR and ordering information for pre-order collective purchase. The Seikatsu Club started from a system for the collective purchase of milk in 1965 and grew into a cooperative and associated political movement. It is a voluntary association started at the initiative of women who wanted to reform their lives and local communities as well as society. Since then, Seikatsu Club has expanded its activities under a motto of autonomous control of our lives, including production, distribution, consumption, disposal, the environment, social services, and politics. When there is a product that members want that isn't available from any existing source company, the members sometimes start a new cooperative company to produce that product. They have been creating the materials they need for their daily life through collaboration between members and producers and have been solving social problems through collective purchase. They have their own safety standards for every single food item they sell, and they control production in accordance with the standard. At the same time, they work to build systems that will enhance cooperation and mutual help in order to improve the quality of life for each member. The Seikatsu Cooperative member unit is based on the independent branches, all of which have independent management and activities. Seikatsu Club funding is from the members, who make monthly contributions of 1,000 yen per person. These investments are the foundation of their healthy financial management. Members participate in investment, purchase, and operation to realize democratic autonomy by members. The group is fully aware that their business as cooperatives is a movement to solve the problems raised in members' daily lives, so they have promoted various other spontaneous movements. They are also trying to make the national government establish measures for the promotion of cooperatives in order to build a society where any citizen can help solve problems autonomously by using various cooperatives as a tool. The central strategy of Seikatsu Club is to use cost-effective collective purchases, to make sure consumers are supplied with quality products at a fair price and keep a commitment to the environment and improved life level at the same time. The Seikatsu Club's unique buying system relies on these strategies, which are: first, the Sanchoku system. By delivering food and household items directly to its members, Seikatsu Club brings producers and consumers into direct contact with each other. This strategy eliminates the need for a middleman, which reduces the cost produced by the middle processing and also makes the whole system more effective. Second, advanced order. Advanced order let consumers tell producers what exactly they want. This relationship allows them to communicate directly with each other and assures benefit for both sides. Consumers get safe food at reasonable prices, while producers are assured of a secure livelihood and a reasonable income. Advanced order also benefits the environment from maintaining sustainability. It encourages consumers to reserve products according to their needs rather than allowing product to stimulate desire. Third, investment strategy. As the purpose of investment is not profit, the club does not offer dividends to its members. This inside group investment is also part of its vision to reduce the division between producer, consumer, and investor. The close number of investment makes their position tend to be equal, which gives members more power in decision-making process. Fourth, low stocking of basic goods. With the concept of one product, one variety, the Seikatsu Club offers variety brands for different types of products it sells, but each type of product only has one brand option. By reducing the categories and the options of each product, the club believes that it is able to ensure the quality as well as lower the cost of stocking. Seikatsu Club principles include 10 principles on safety, health, and the environment. First, pursuit of safety for consumer materials. Food additives, reducing agricultural chemical use, countermeasures against radioactive contamination. Second, raising self-sufficiency in food. Ratio of domestic production. Third, reduction of harmful substances. Countermeasures for genetically modified foods, additive-free packaging materials. Fourth, sustainable use of natural resources, reducing CO2 emissions, power saving. Fifth, reduction of waste and promotion of reuse, garbage reduction. Sixth, reduction of energy use, aiming for a nuclear-free society, energy creation. Seventh, reduction of risk. Eighth, information disclosure. Ninth, independent control of auditing, autonomous auditing. 10. Mass participation, producer exchange meetings. When the Seikatsu Club made their first purchase in 1965, collective purchasing was just a strategy to save money. However, over the next 40 years, the club has been developed into a social cooperative with concept encompassing the whole of life. They not only try to solve the food safety issue, but also care about the environment sustainability and the political rights and social status of women. These social missions enhance the opportunity to accomplish their goal. In the Life Club, you can purchase food and living supplies necessary for everyday living at an appropriate price. However, it is slightly different from a mere convenient home delivery service. Sekatsu Cooperative takes part in several projects, addressing the environment and society, safety, health and environment, earthquake reconstruction assistance, support for nuclear disaster victims, aiming for a society without nuclear power plants, society's approach, green system, 3R movement, welfare, care activities. For example, under the project addressing the environment and society, they strive for the society that is ecological, human and sustainable. The club is aiming for such living and transformation into society through joint purchase. Under the Project 3R movement, they promote reduce, reuse, recycle. Under the Project Welfare and Care activities, they implemented welfare projects through citizen participation, such as managing day service centers and special nursing home for the elderly.